What's going on there, guys? Good evening. It's the Earthmaster here on the live stream here on this beautiful Friday night. Party night, right? July 15th, 2022. It's straight up 8 p.m. West Coast time here in California. 11 p.m. East Coast time. Looking at the latest earthquake, shows a 4.0 earthquake here in the South America region. I've still got my eyeball on this area. Following a 6.4 earthquake that struck off the coast of Chile. A very shallow earthquake movement out there. I don't think we're done in that area yet, considering all the activity we're seeing in the deeper movement regions of the Peru-Chile Trench. So we're going to watch that area pretty closely. Let's go ahead and check out the latest activity here around the globe. Here on the flat scale model, of course, this is the USGS map. A lot of folks here asking me why I use the USGS map. Well, we're only limited to a couple specific agencies when it comes to earthquake reporting, right? I can go through every seismic station around the globe and look at the recorded data throughout the day, but I kind of have somewhat faith in the USGS and also the EMSC data reporting systems. Yes, they don't report everything, but they're there for a standard for the most part. So that's why I use the USGS. Okay, that's my excuse, and it is what it is. So, looking at the West Coast activity, we are still seeing some movement down from Southern California northward up into the Seattle area. Actually, we had some activity well up into the Gulf of Alaska as well, and some movement throughout Canada. Let's go ahead and check out the latest activity here in the region of Northern California. We're still seeing some activity stretching up pretty much from about look at this, a little earthquake here around the Mount Lassen area. A little 1.4 at 7.9 kilometers just south here of the peak of Mount Lassen. Maybe about 3 miles or so. 7 kilometers below the surface. Not a big earthquake. They do get occasional quakes up there around the Mount Lassen area, so not abnormal. And some further movement here south of the Lake Almanor region. Activity south of Lake Tahoe as well. Looking at the region where we've seen activity yesterday, we're still seeing some movement. A little cluster of quakes here around that region where we've seen the 4.6 striking in the Ridgecrest area yesterday. And also a little separate swarm here in the, the White Hills, is that it? Looks like the White Hills area. A little separate swarming area. Although most of this earthquake activity is aftershock sequences there following the activity back in 2019. An area we do need to watch for some swarming is around the Salton Sea area. We did see some 2s and 3s out here yesterday. Today, about the same. We do have one earthquake here within the last hour near Imperial. Of course, this is along the Imperial fault system, which kind of extends up here to the Brawley seismic zone, little extensional fault system of the San Andreas fault, where the 8.1 will strike one day. That's you can't run and bury your head underneath the sand when you hear those words, right? Because that's a fact. 8.1 earthquake or greater is coming to this area soon. That's a 100% fact. A lot of people don't want to hear it, but you know what? Go bury your head out in the sand. Do that. Up through the Idaho area and into portions of Montana and Wyoming, some activity stretching up there as well. Overall, regional seismic activity has been on the increase here across a good portion of the United States, and I'm sure stretching up here into portions of Canada as well. Let's go ahead and check out the latest activity from the Earthquakes Canada site, where they monitor the activity up here throughout the region, and obviously looks pretty active as well. Once we get across the border, some movement obviously into northern Washington region. Some activity stretching up here along the plate boundary of the Pacific Plate and the North American Plate there in the purple circle, just off the coast of the village of Queen Charlotte, BC area. Seeing some movement as well, and it looks like near the Atris area, up into the White Horse and up into the Yukon territories. Seen some activity throughout the day today as well. 3.8 near the Keno Yukon Territory region. up there in the beautiful country of Canada. So overall seismic activity, and I've noted this on the USGS map here, not only throughout Western Canada, but all throughout the Aleutian Trench here, and also the western portion of the states. Let's go ahead and check this out. I'll show you guys real quick here and see what I'm talking about. Bring up the all magnitudes here. So we got to remember, we got to mix in all that activity we've seen there in Canada, throughout the Alaska region. Look at that. Look at Alaska today. That's a lot of activity for Alaska. A lot of activity for the western portion of the states. And also down here in the South America region, seeing quite a bit of swarming. The USGS only showing 4.0 and above, but we've seen it on the Earthquake 3D globe. Quite a bit of 3s and 2s in the mix. So broad scale activity here along the eastern portion of the Pacific Plate. That includes adjacent plates here, folks. That includes the Nazca Plate, which is this large plate here. It sits off the coast of South America. And the Cocos Plate here. It kind of extends through the western portion of Mexico. It's been very active. Very, very active. And I said that it's going to remain that way unless we see some sufficient movement here to the west. Now, what have we seen since all this activity? Well, we've seen low activity ramping up here in the Fiji Islands area. Some deeper movement into the Kermadec Trench regions, a couple 5s and a 4. And some movement up here along the Philippine Plate and also off the coast of Japan up here. Off the coast of Russia, I should say, of 4.4. But we haven't seen sufficient large-scale movement. I'm talking about 6s and above. I don't think we're going to see a relief or a reprieve in the activity here along these major regions that we're seeing this activity today and yesterday until this happens. It's a teeter-totter effect, and I've seen it happen more times than I care to mention, and I think a lot of you folks have as well. It's a fact, and is it a theory? I don't know if you can call it a theory or not, but we see it and we document it and we report on it. And right now we're in that teeter-totter effect where the West Coast, basically Alaska down through the West Coast into this whole area, is under the gun in terms of producing a large earthquake until we see sufficient release over here to the west. Let's go ahead and look up the Alaska activity where there's quite a bit. Nothing within the last hour, but just looking at this regional earthquake map here shows about 65 earthquakes spread out throughout the Aleutian Trench and the Alaska region. 6 of those are above the 2.5 threshold, including a 4.4 in the Chinook area. Looks like off the subduction zone. Kind of looks like it's prior to that. Very shallow earthquake movement. Again, this area can see a mega quake. Doesn't take a whole lot of stress here or a whole lot of time of accumulated stress in this region to produce a large earthquake. It's very active in this subduction zone. One of the most active zones in the world, next to this area here along the Kuril-Kamchatka and the Japan Trench region. So very dangerous area in terms of producing some mega quakes. And today it's pretty active up there in Alaska, no doubt. So aside from this movement down south here, we have seen quite a bit of activity here in the New Zealand area. I want to pull up the EMSC model here. We'll go ahead and refresh this, make sure we got the latest data here for the folks in the New Zealand region, where they're seeing quite a few 3s kicking up here along this area. Look at all those 3s ramping up. Some 4s in the mix as well. So the USGS not showing all of them. Okay, so it's one of their downfalls. I admit they don't report all their earthquakes. What's their reasoning? I don't know. I don't work for the USGS yet. Maybe someday I will. That's kind of what I'm studying in right now in geology through a major college. Me and Missy Mimi's both are working towards that career goal. Quite a few 3s and some 4s up there through the mix of the Kermadec Trench southward, and also into the Hikurangi subduction zone, which is a major player right here and possibly producing a significant megaquake for the New Zealand area one day. There's still a lot of uncertainty on the historical data of the Hikurangi, but we're watching it pretty closely. There's all the activity ramping up throughout the Chile area. You can see all those 3s and 2s and even a couple 4s mixing in there as well, deep into the Peru-Chile Trench. The movement around the Middle America Trench very heightened today as well. Look at the activity into the Gulf of California. And I know the USGS does not show this, but it's pretty important because it shows you guys the broad scale activity that we're seeing along the eastern portion of the Pacific Plate and the adjacent plates. That includes the Cocos Plate and the Nazca Plate down here. There's a lot of stress within this region. And the reason why is because we're kind of locked over here. We're not seeing a whole lot of sufficient large-scale activity to release all this activity here in this region. So it's that teeter-totter effect. West-east. Right now, we're kind of stuck in between. So we're watching it pretty closely. I still think there's possibility of seeing some further large-scale movement here in California. Therefore, I'm leaving up the earthquake watch for the next 24 hours. Inland, as I noted, there's some activity stretching up well into the North American continent here, into the States. Rocky Mountains, right? Major buildup of stress through the plate tectonic process. Let's go ahead and check out the Yellowstone activity here real quick. See if we got anything going on in Yellowstone. Is Yellowstone even a worry? It's a beautiful area, but man, the traffic sucks up there. It's not good. What do we got for earthquake activity? So, looking at this, it almost looks like we're seeing a little swarm of activity kick up here around the Norris Junction, Holmes Hill, Maple Creek area. Notice this activity popping up there pretty significantly. Let me check out the windy map, see what we got for weather conditions up there in the Wyoming area. Let's go to wind gust here, and well, make sure I'm not in Nebraska or South Dakota right now. I know I did that the other night. Things look somewhat calm here across the northwestern portion of Wyoming, and that includes the areas around Yellowstone. So the activity that we're seeing here, I believe it looks like it's some type of earthquake activity popping up pretty significantly in a swarm type fashion around the northwestern corner of Yellowstone. Is that the right one? Hold on a second here. Make sure I got the right map here. There we go. Around Yellowstone National Park, you can see the signature showing up around Maple Creek. See these spikes showing up here on the seismograph. That activity is showing up over here across the, I believe, Norris Junction area. So this looks like legit earthquake activity, some type of swarming or movement going on across the area of the park. Also down south here around the Pitchstone Plateau. So things looking a little active over here. We'll see what becomes of it. Again, it doesn't look like there's anything popping up here across the region. Thunderstorms. Let's see here. What do we got for rain and thunderstorms here? Let's see. Thunderstorms. Not a whole lot of activity or CAPE values around this region. Most of it's afar. So when I see this type of data popping up here on the Yellowstone areas, I definitely want to investigate what's going on further here, because that looks like some activity occurring underneath the ground in rapid type movement, and that's a little on the concerning side. Well, so we'll definitely keep an eye on it for sure. And again, most of it is confined here to the Maple Creek area, the regions around. Let's see. Hold on a second here. Regions around the Purple Mountain area, Mary Lake as well. So northwestern corner here of the park. So that could be tectonic stress building up, a sign of cracking of the rock, and a lot of earthquake, small microquake activity picking up there. We'll definitely have to watch that, considering all the movement that's occurring along the Intermountain West regions. I know the USGS not showing a whole lot of activity, but it's there. Look at that. There's some broad scale activity throughout the Intermountain West regions, right up against the Rocky Mountains, where we expect that crunching, so to speak, that plate dynamic movement really kicking up there. So we shall watch it pretty closely, folks, in Puerto Rico area, right around the Caribbean plate. Not some of this movement around the Dominican Republic. Let's go ahead and spit it out. It's from earlier this morning. Some activity in the southwestern corner of Puerto Rico kicking up within the last 24 hours, but it looks as though, at least for now, activity calming down in this area of Puerto Rico. Again, I don't have any sufficient say so in terms of seeing any increased pressure anywhere. I mean, if we're talking about the western portion of the Pacific Plate, I think we really need to see something much larger over here before we can say, okay, things are going to start dying down, calming down along this area of the world. But I don't see any sufficient data that's going to tell me that that's going to happen right now. So heads up, West Coast, but also at the same time, be on guard over here for some possible larger scale movement. It's that teeter-totter effect, and it's kind of playing some games today. We'll watch it pretty closely. Further west here from the Pacific, low activity around the Pakistan, and up north, a couple fours kicking off here. The Atlantic Ocean has remained relatively quiet, not looking at any activity here in the past couple days, so that might be a spot to watch pretty closely. 300 epicenters of tremor along the Cascadia. It's a pretty good increase here, but I would expect that considering all the large-scale activity we've been seeing here along the western coast here of the United States. Got to remember the pressure that's being applied here along the Cascadia subduction zone is great. It's been great for 322 years. So tremor activity, we're kind of shoving that plate system here, the Juan de Fuca plate, underneath the North American plate, creating that tremor activity, but ultimately adding strain upstream to possibly, well, not possibly, but to ultimately release a 9.0 or greater earthquake for the folks here in Seattle, western portions of Oregon and whatnot. That's a fact, folks. I know a lot of people don't like to hear it. They don't want to hear bad news, right? Nobody wants to hear bad news. The best thing you can do, folks, if you live up there, is just be prepared and definitely not be scared. I mean, it's a scary situation to think that there's going to be a large tsunami that comes in after a 9.0 earthquake to finish off the stuff that the earthquake didn't do. But best be prepared. That's all you have to do. That's all you can do, right? Be prepared. Not fear-mongering. That's the facts, folks. Look it up for yourself if you don't believe me. A lot of people throw out the word fear-mongering. On the back of my business card, I have a YouTube business card that I've given them to many people throughout my travels, is YouTuber without the fear porn. We are not a fear porn channel. We don't do that. We state the facts here. Looking at the solar X-ray flux data, still kind of crackling quite a bit actually with some C flares over the past 24 hours. No M flares since the activity yesterday, but we're still looking pretty active in terms of the solar flux data. The KP indexes there still kind of amplified, looking somewhat possible for auroras at the higher latitudes. Solar flare activity still remains 99% chance of a C flare, considering we're already in the C flare category. M flare at 40. X flare still remains at 15% chance, with a 5% chance of some protons being thrown out there from the sun. The sun is getting pretty active in terms of not only the sunspots, but also a couple major coronal holes that will ultimately provide an extended forecast there of some enhanced activity for geomagnetic storming at the northern latitudes. Some of the higher latitudes, this is some solar wind stream flowing from the earth from these coronal holes, and it's growing. So along with these sunspots and the coronal hole activity, I expect a pretty active week next week and next weekend. We'll see how this adjusts according to the 3-day geomagnetic forecast. All right, folks, just a really quick announcement. Tomorrow is the last day to enter into the 75,000 subscriber giveaway. We're not giving away $75,000. I'm not that rich. I kind of wish I was, but we're not. But we are going to be picking out 6 people from a random drawing on Sunday. So tomorrow's the last day to enter. What you need to do is find the 75,000 subscriber giveaway video. In fact, here's what I'll do. At the end of this video, I will provide that link. You'll see it coming up next. Far as the up next video on YouTube, you will see the 75,000 subscriber giveaway entry video. Make sure you follow the directions. You have to write the word enter into the comment section below. Not this video, definitely not this video, folks, not this live stream, but into the 75,000 subscriber giveaway video. Missy Mimi's has been working hard, even though she's sick, at getting all those entries written down on these tickets. We will be pulling from a fishbowl live on Sunday. 6 people will be winning some prizes. That includes Earthmaster merchandise, gear, whether you want a shirt, socks, leggings, a backpack, sweater, it will be your choice. And also some vials of the 1700 tsunami deposits and some subsequent sediment deposits above and below the level that we found when we were out digging along the Oregon coastline, up above the Oregon coastline actually. And it will come with a little informational card as to what you're seeing there. Also a little gift item we're throwing in there as well. So you guys technically receive 3 gifts for 6 people out there. 6 people receive 3 gifts. So get in there if you want to win some prizes. Again, the end of this video, it's coming up right now. 75,000 subscriber giveaway. Make sure you enter into it before tomorrow night. We will be cutting off comments, and we'll go from there. Have a good night, folks. Stay safe out there. Again, Southern California earthquake watch still in effect. I don't believe we're seeing any relief right now along the western coast. Just be on guard, and we'll chat you guys a little bit later on. Stay safe, everyone.